In this video, I'll be going over some housing tools that might interest you, as well as going over some formulas as it relates to mortgages. So on this first tab here, we've got the apartment rental comparison. So you might be interested in shopping for a rental, for instance. And so even though this is apartment, I could also say that this is for house rentals as well. You might be renting a condo, an apartment, or a house, but this chart can help you either way. And whether or not you actually fill it out or you just use it as a checklist, it could be something helpful to think about all the potential costs associated with a rental. So at the top of our chart, we've got the name of the renting person or apartment building, as well as the contact information and address or location. And then as we scroll down, some of the important components you want to be aware of is what's the monthly rent, what's the security deposit, and while it doesn't mention it here, you'll also want to include if there's any deposits required for pets. So if you've got a dog or a cat, oftentimes they charge an additional deposit on a monthly basis. What's the length of the lease? Is it 6 months, a year, or longer? Usually the longer the lease, the better the rent should be, because the stability behind a long-term renter. What utilities are included in the rent? So hopefully you don't have to pay for all the utilities. Some of these might be part of the cost of rent already. Other aspects of the facilities you want to be aware of is parking. Is it a carport, a garage? Do you get one space or two spaces, or is it all street parking? Is there a storage area available? Is there laundry on site, or even better, in the apartment or home that you're renting? Or do you have to go to a laundromat, for instance? As well as the distance of the rental to schools, public transportation, and shopping. And other things to think about too is any recreational facilities, such as a pool, a tennis court, perhaps a gym. These things could save you money as opposed to paying for memberships elsewhere. You could just use what's available with the rental. And then last but not least is any other costs such as utility costs, electric, cable, internet, gas, water, and any other information that you want to keep track of that will help you decide which rental is best. Similarly, on the third tab right here, there's another comparison chart. So this one's to let you compare the mortgage companies that you might be getting the services from. So again, up here at the top, you're listing out what your amount of mortgage or how much you want to borrow, what's the down payment and the length of the loan, and then filling out the information about the mortgage company as well as the contact person, any application fees, credit report fees, and property appraisal fees, the loan origination fee, and then we break down into what the mortgage might look like, whether it's fixed rate or adjustable rate, and as well as any other components that you'll need when you're deciding what kind of mortgage to get. So these are some things to think about, and note that when you actually do purchase a home, so the lender will provide documentation on all of these fees and costs. So you want to make sure to look through it because sometimes they make errors. And so you want all the documentation to be correct. And so the second tab is about housing affordability and mortgage qualification. So this is an Excel tool that you can plug in information to find out how much you can afford. There's a lot of online calculators that you can do this as well. And I'm going to show you how to calculate this for the homework using some of the formulas. So before I get into this Excel tool, I'm going to show you some of the formulas that you'll get into this week. So here's the mortgage payment factors, Exhibit 7-7, that you'll be working with this week. And so the term rate, or what is the interest rate that you'll get on a home, and how long the loan is, whether it's a 30, 25, 20 year, or 15-year loan. So for instance, I recently bought a home. It is a 30-year loan, and the interest rate I got was a 4.5. So the mortgage payment factor that I'll use is 5.07. So you just want to make sure you know how to read the table, interest rates on the left and the length of the loan in the columns to the right. So let's look at an example. Let's say we have a $223,000 mortgage for a 30-year loan at 7%. We want to know what our monthly mortgage payment will be. So the formula right here states that you're going to take the mortgage payment factor from Exhibit 7-7 and multiply it by, in parentheses, the mortgage amount divided by 1,000. So here's my 30-year loan at 7%, going back to the table. I'm looking at 30 years, and I'm going to go down until I get to the 7% right here. So 6.65 is my mortgage payment factor. So that's where the 6.65 comes in, and I'm going to multiply it by, here I'll take the mortgage of 223,000, divide it by 1,000, and so I get $1,482.95 for our monthly mortgage payment. Note that this is very similar to homework problems 2 and 4 this week. Now let's calculate an affordable mortgage. Suppose your gross annual income is $52,000 and you have $24,000 to put down on a house. Your lender allows 38% of monthly gross income for PITI. I think the textbook kind of inverts it. Sometimes it says TIPI, other times it says PITI. It's the same thing, it's just everything put together: insurance, principal, interest, taxes. So you have other debt payments of $540 per month, and you expect monthly property taxes and insurance to be $480. You can get a 30-year mortgage with an interest rate of 4.5%. You do not want to pay PMI. Remember, that's the insurance when you don't have at least a 20% down payment. So you would like to finance 80% of the house. In other words, we have to do a down payment of 20%. So what is the affordable home purchase price? So to solve the problem, we have to do three things. We first need to find the affordable monthly mortgage payment, so how much I can afford each month. Then we'll use that to find the affordable mortgage amount. So this is the amount I can borrow. And then the last piece is, well, how much house can I afford? So in our first part, what we'll do is we'll take our monthly gross income, and recall that it was 52,000 in the story. So to get the monthly gross, we have to divide by 12. So that's where I get the $4,333.33. And then we'll multiply it by the 38% or the 0.38 that the lender provided. So I'm multiplying by 0.38. Then I'll subtract our property taxes and insurance as well as any other debt. So that's the minus the 480 and the 540. So we get $626.67. Or if you'll notice, sometimes in the homework it tells you to round to something specific. So if it says to round to 2 decimal places, we would leave it like this. Or if it says to round to the nearest whole dollar, then you'll round it like this, for instance. Now in this example, we'll go ahead and round to the whole dollar for simplicity. So now for the affordable mortgage amount, how much I can borrow, we'll take the 627 that we found previously. So that's the affordable monthly mortgage payment of 627, and we will divide it by our mortgage payment factor. And then multiply by 1,000. So the mortgage payment factor is going to be based off of the 30 years at 4.5%. So here's my 30 years, and at 4.5%, it is 5.07. And so we'll take our 627 divided by 5.07 from the exhibit 7-7 and then multiply by 1,000. So recall that the mortgage payment factors are based on increments of 1,000. Now, when I plug all this into my calculator, I get the $123,668.64 if rounded to 2 decimal places, or if I round it to the whole dollar, 123,669. Now for the affordable home purchase, I'm going to take the amount that I can borrow, that's the affordable mortgage amount of 123,669, and I will divide it by 1 minus our down payment percent. So in our story, we want to finance 80%, which is the same as saying our down payment is 20%. So we'll take the 1 minus the 20%, or 1 minus 0.2. And then when I solve this in my calculator, I get $154,586 when rounded. And note, this is very similar to homework problem number 3. Now, this example shows us how to use the formulas and calculate it using a calculator, but you can also use Excel. So this tab that had the housing affordability, we can actually plug in the information based on this. Let's say combined, my partner and I have a gross monthly income of 120. And so it breaks out in dark gray any of the numbers based on the formulas. And so here you'll notice, though, the front end ratio and back end ratios are set at 28% and 36% based on a down payment of at least 10%. Now, if you're working with something slightly different, like in the other example, we had a down payment of 20% and the lender was using a 38% ratio of monthly gross income as a guideline, you can always plug in a slightly different number and use the Excel to kind of work through it. Here we'll go ahead and subtract our monthly debts. Let's say I've got a car payment of $300. So I put it in both columns to see what it looks like. And let's say the cost of property taxes per month, including insurance, is $500. So it continues to calculate for me. And then in step 4, it's going to say, well, what's your monthly mortgage payment factor? And so while we use the exhibit in the other example, you can just plug it in here. Let's say we've got a 4.5% rate and I'm doing a 30-year term. My exact factor is 5.06685. In the table, it's 5.07, for instance. So I want to be precise, and it reminds you right here, this is the exhibit 7-7. Or I could be really precise and I could do 5.06685. Let's go ahead and just do that because I have the number. So here is our affordable mortgage amount that's been calculated. So we just did this by hand using the formulas on the other screen, but you can also just plug it in here and it'll calculate it for you. This is how much we can borrow, whether it's a front end ratio or a back end ratio. Now in step 5, well, this will depend on your down payment again. So enter how much down payment we want. Let's say I want to do a 20% down. You'll notice here that it divides it by that 0.8, or it took my 1 minus my down payment. The Excel file uses the same concepts from the formulas I explained, but just pre-populates it for you in a worksheet. So as I plug in my down payment, my affordable home purchase price on a front end is $493,403, or on the back end, it's $690,764. Now, note that the two ratios here and other loan requirements vary on a wide range of things. So lenders often will calculate both ratios to get a feel for perhaps what your range is and allow for greater flexibility in borrowing. And just as a reminder, in each week's module, while the homework link is right here, right below it is the homework formulas and files link. So if I click on this, it's got all the formulas that you need to do the homework, and it is in the order of appearance of the homework problems. I'm not trying to make this any more complicated than it needs to be. And really, as you can see, the way the formulas are set up, it's based on the concepts you're learning. And you want to make sure you plug them in the correct order. And then the Excel file that I just showed in this tutorial can be found right here, clicking on this link if you're interested in it. So if you have any questions, just let me know.